Here we go.
Do it.
Okay, cool.
Here we go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Coffin Talkin', where we unravel the mysteries, embrace the peculiar, and find humor in the unconventional world of funerals and death. Hi, Dad.
Hey, Holly.
Hi,
How are
Coffiners.
you? I'm good.
Hi, Coffiners.
Yes. Did you forget that we started naming our listeners Coffiners? Hello, Coffiners.
It had been a while. I'm so sorry if we have
It's
offended
funny.
any listeners by not doing that.
I was having a conversation with someone that just started listening to the podcast. They were enjoying it, and I said, "Oh, you're a Coffiner then? A what? A Coffiner? You're a listener to the Coffin Talk, and so we refer to you lovingly as a Coffiner."
Of course.
Of course.
And then they said, okay, you know what? I'm done with this podcast.
Yeah, they probably haven't listened since, so whatever.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine.
You know what? As I was cleaning up yesterday, just cleaning up my front room, I
Okay.
was going through a box I hadn't looked through in a while, and I found one of those casket keychains.
Mm.
Yes.
All
so
right,
for
nice.
our Coffiners, my dad made these casket keychains as kind of merchandise for your funeral home.
Yeah, it's PR.
Yeah, PR. And so it's a keychain, and it's just a little wood block, but it's carved into a casket, and has his address and the name of the mortuary on the back. It's very fun, and I think once you sent those to me, you had to keep sending those to me because all of my friends were like, I need one.
I want one.
I want one.
Even your bosses. I want one.
Yeah, even
I
my
want that.
boss.
I want that. Mhm.
Yeah.
So why did you bring that up, Holly? Are you saying that we should incorporate that into merch?
Merch. If that's interesting to anyone, they're sweet.
They're sweet.
So let us know. Email in, and we'll start the production line again.
Only this time we should probably put coffin instead of the name of the funeral home. There's only a certain amount of room you have on the top of the casket.
Right.
So maybe just cough talk.
Cough talk. Coffin talk. We'll work it out. It's okay.
Yeah.
But we'd have to make it instead of what is the casket that we have on as our icon?
It's a European casket.
A European casket.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'd have to make it European instead of just I don't know. What are the normal caskets called?
I don't know. And I don't know if we could do that. I haven't looked into I'll have to look into it, see what we can do.
Don't fret though, Coffiners.
Coffiners. Thanks, Holly.
It's coming.
Oh, it's so nice to hear people referred to as Coffiners. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Since we have a following now of 4 people, we can go ahead and officially call. Well, do we have to wait till there's 5 to officially?
Yes, I think we should wait till there's 5.
Okay.
Maybe if we can convince Mom to actually listen, then.
Oh, you mean the fictitious Lisa?
Yeah.
Just so you know, we had an emailer come in and say, "Hey, could Lisa sometime join in the podcast?" And
right,
look at each other. Who's Lisa?
Who's Lisa? What do you mean? Oh, we made her up.
Oh my gosh!
Oh my gosh!
It's okay. That's fine.
We'll get her on one day.
One day.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
But she says never, never, never. Did she say it 4 times?
Yeah, probably.
I'm not doing
that. Sounds about right.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah. Peer pressure. It works wonders.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh, man. But I mean, we digress. But how was your week?
You know what, Holly? For the first time in a long time this week, I kind of got disgusted with the business.
Oh my gosh, why?
Yeah, only because people started to take advantage of it. And when I say take advantage of it, well, they would call, like we have already taken care of someone, their services. And I don't mind saying that I can go back and help that family again. I love doing that, but don't come back. The thing that I hated the most was 2 families this past week called me back and said, we're ready to have services. Number 1, can we get programs printed? And I said, of course. Number 2, we want to use your facility for the funeral services. which
Mhm.
is fine. But when that is initially done, it's usually discussed that it's going to take place at their home. And
Yeah.
so then when they demand a specific day, meaning whether it be today, yesterday, whatever the case might be, then it just becomes a little, because the weekends might become a little more, I guess, sacred to me. I want my
Yeah.
time, because I've spent a lot of time in the funeral industry, and for once, I was just looking forward to this weekend. And then we had a young man pass away, and then the family came in and did an all-day viewing, which they just wanted to come in and see him. But I'm not going to begrudge them of that. But then another family called and said, we'd like to have services on Sunday at 6. So it just kind of, I know it comes with the territory, but when you aren't expecting to do it, see, there's a difference between, if I currently had the case in my hands, that's different. But where they've taken the case home with them, the cremated remains in this instance, and have been with him for 4 months or so, and all of a sudden calling and say, we're doing it at Sunday at your place at 6. And I'm thinking, what?
Where's the notice of
yeah,
that?
maybe you could, and they call on Friday. So maybe you could,
Oh my gosh.
maybe you could ask instead of tell. See,
Yeah, instead of say, I'm doing this.
I think that was the thing that what probably made me the most jaded. But other than that, it's been a pretty good week. It's been for me, faith promoting, and very good with regards to different avenues that we can look at as far as with death itself. So it's been good.
I was going to say, I will say, when we drop this episode, it will be Christmas Day.
Oh my gosh. Merry Christmas.
Yes. Merry
That's
Christmas,
nice.
everyone. Coffiners.
Do coffiners have Merry Christmas? We're going to talk about that a little bit today. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It'll be good. What about your week?
My week was great. I guess I will share for everyone our blunder this week. So if you'll remember, we had a new addition to the podcast team, being my new kitten, Nellie. And we finally took her in to get shots. And the vet was checking her out, doing like the little physical thing that they do. And they go, "Oh, we're a boy." So we misgendered our cat. Nellie is now going by the name of Nelson. So, it was a weird week. It really threw me off.
If that was the worst part of your week, Ollie, I think you've had a pretty good week.
Oh my gosh.
That is funny. It reminds me of that joke.
We were so embarrassed.
You remember that joke where the kid says, "I've got a new baby puppy and his name's Ben." 2 weeks later, he comes back and he says, "Hey, how's Ben doing?" "You mean Ben-Hur."
Ben-Hur. Oh my gosh. Or it reminds me of in the movie Up, the Pixar movie Up. Kevin's a girl? That is literally the whole, that was us in the vet's office.
Oh my gosh.
Nellie's a boy?
Oh man.
Oh my gosh. But I mean, no, I have no complaints. We're leaving to travel this upcoming week, so we're really excited about that. It'll be great to see
Vegas and then on to Arizona, right?
Yep.
No, good. Yeah. So if you have any coffiners that are following you, Vegas. Maybe they'll meet you in Vegas.
Vegas, baby.
I don't know.
Cut me on the street. I'll sign. I'll take a picture.
I'll sign. Hold it, Holly. We're hoping to push five listeners. Yeah. 5 coffiners after this episode. Okay, what do you mean they're getting? I'll sign anything you want me to do, whatever.
Oh my gosh. Maybe I'll even have a casket keychain for you.
I only have one, so
yeah, only one. Don't ask for two.
First herb. Oh man.
Oh my gosh.
Whooshka. Okay.
Well, yeah, that's about it, but let's jump in.
Okay.
Oh. Yes, let's let's jump in and let's be frank.
You guys can't, you commoners can't see what the expression I'm giving Holly, but are you going to introduce me?
Are you gonna
Yeah,
say
come on.
the catchphrase?
Let's go. Come on,
Oh my
Holly.
gosh.
Oh,
This is
boy.
why we only have 4
Mm.
listeners.
Commoners.
Coffiners, of course.
Okay. So today I want to talk a little bit about grief in the holidays. And I'm going to share a couple of things with you, and then I want to share with you a couple of stories that are heartwarming with the holidays and kind of tragic as well. But the attitude, again, is, I think, one of the most important things that anyone can ever accomplish when a tragedy like death occurs in a family. So with that being said, I hope not to be offensive to individuals that have actually suffered a loss this time of year, and recognize that holidays become one of the most important times of remembrance and or grief. So let's go ahead and start with some pointers. My wife and I have just this past year, not this year, but the year before, we're doing something different. We did wooden Christmas ornaments for all the families that we had served with their name of their loved one and their date of birth and their date of death, something that they could hang on the tree to remember the loved one they had lost for Christmas. We've gotten, at first I was a little disappointed because we didn't get many responses back. And that's not the reason for doing it, but the response back helps you understand the effect that the gesture has made in the community. Right. And so just as the time went on, and it was probably about mid-January that I was starting to get maybe, I don't know, 50 thank you notes for the ornament that had actually been sent out, which was great. But I understood, everybody gets busy. And so you don't always have time to actually drop a note when the actual envelope arrives at your home. You can just probably sit there and think about it. So let's talk a little bit about, I love roller coasters. And so I'm gonna liken this next little bit of grief to a roller coaster. In the roller coaster, you've got all that anticipation, and this is the anticipation on the roller coaster is the first hill, the first dip. And so, but there's a slow pull to the top of the hill. And that pull a lot of times becomes the feeling that you may be witnessing of a loved one who's expected to pass away, and you watch them slowly with anticipation pass to the other side. That's the pull. And other times when you reach the top and all of a sudden you drop, becomes a tragic accident where someone has passed away, where you've had no warning whatsoever, but the death has actually occurred. And then there's the cooling off time where it's just kind of getting you ready for the next level of either ups or downs. That is exactly what I liken grief to. And so let's take a look a little bit about grief and which holidays do you think would be the most difficult to travail or to trespass through once a death occurs, Holly? If you had to think about it right now in your mind, and I know we haven't talked about this before, but if you had to think about which major holidays would be the hardest ones for family? I
would think just in succession, Thanksgiving, then Christmas, then New Year's.
Okay.
Those are all very centered around family and especially starting the new year off with your loved ones. I think that'd be really, really difficult. So I would say probably those 3.
Thank you. And there's a 4th one that I want to mention, and it happens in February.
President's Day?
Valentine's Day.
Oh, Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Oh, now I feel stupid for saying President's Day.
Well, it didn't help that I held up a flashcard for you to... What do you think, Holly? President's Day?
What do you think?
And that's why you said it the way you did. President's Day?
President's Day? Oh my gosh. Everyone grab your loved one. It's President's Day.
So, okay. Anyway, so let's just focus a little bit on Christmas since we're right there in this season. So why, and I'm going to want to have a little bit of a conversation. I don't want to be only the one talking. Why do you think Christmas would become a hard time to, after suffering the loss of a loved one, Holly?
I just think Christmas is, I associate it as just being so different from other holidays. because it's not about the day itself, it's more about the season.
Mhm.
And as we've talked about before, people's attitudes completely change at Christmas time because they are focused on, um, whether it be they're focused on their religion more, or they're focused more family focused and excited to see family. It kind of all just builds up to the culmination of Christmas Day. And then you have images of Christmas morning opening presents under the tree with your kids and with your spouse. And I know that's an idealistic image, but it can be a letdown if you're alone
Yeah.
or if someone is missing.
Right.
There is a very big hole.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point, because that's exactly what I want to kind of hit on. The thing that I remember the most, and you've seen the musical Les Miserables,
Mhm.
but there's a song in there called "Empty Chairs at Empty Tables."
Yeah.
And so I always envision for this time of year, whenever I help a family that's actually lost a loved one,
Mhm.
about how they're going to react to a chair that's been set aside at the table that's now empty, that used to be filled by a loved one.
Right.
And so when we think about holidays, I think one of the hardest things and times for us is actually trying to fill the void of the loved one.
Mhm.
And so a lot of people liken it to grief. I say it's when people want to change things because the grief, oh, it's just not the same. Why isn't it the same? Is it the grief or is it the pain?
Hmm.
So I think there's a definite difference between grief and pain. And so I think grief drives you to pain, but if you can get rid of the pain, the grief becomes a building block, so that
Yeah.
you can become stronger in your traditions with your
Mhm.
family, and those family traditions can even become stronger. So there is a great group of suggestions that people can use when they think about the loss of a loved one. And I just want to hit 5 of maybe 6 of them and talk a little bit about each one, and then we'll go into the stories. So with social media, what could we do that would allow us to honor our loved one? Is there anything on social media that we could do?
I mean, yeah, even just posting about them, or if they passed away unexpectedly, maybe taking a look through pictures. It becomes a place to honor them.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I call it creating a tribute. And it's right
Yeah.
now so easy right now online to just go ahead and create a tribute. So you can throw some pictures in there, some of the favorite statements that the individual like to make, some of the favorite pastimes or sports that the individual like to participate in. You
Mhm.
could set up charitable funds,
Right.
scholarship funds in the name of your loved one, where people can generously, and most people are generous. They do contribute
Yeah.
to the organizations like this or things that you have actually set up. The other thing that I find interesting is if you're faith-based or oriented, and even if you're not, you might want to try this, just to have a simple prayer at the
Mhm.
family gathering where your loved one's name is specifically mentioned.
Right.
And I think that would bring a lot of comfort to individuals that are actually there. And those that haven't really started the grieving process, it's amazing what a prayer can do to the
Yeah.
soul and allow you to actually expand just a little bit there. The other one that I was thinking about is, which happens quite often when we have services at the funeral home, is I love candles. Why can't you
Mhm.
just take in your home and light a candle for your loved one? You could
Yeah.
identify the candle specifically for your loved one. And there's 14-day candles out there. And usually if you look at a candle, you can say, oh my gosh, I miss him or her. And I'm so grateful that he was part of my life. And you know what? If you're anything like me, when I focus on a flame, memories start to flow. And that's why I love campfires. I love to be outdoors. I love just looking at the simple flick or flicker of a candle of the flame. It means more to me than what I feel like I can share right now. So there's that. And then create a story or some sort of a timeline about your loved one. And it's important. And I think it would be fun to, if, say, for instance, a loved one of mine passed away, it would be fine, I think, for me to approach my children, my wife, anyone that may have known the individual that passed away, and just say, share with me some stories or memories about them.
Oh
And
yeah.
let me know. And one of my favorite things to do when I'm sitting with a family is when I've taken all the vital stats information, their minds are focused on the vital stats. So I'll lay my pen down and say, okay, now tell me something. Tell me one of your most fondest memories about your father or your mother. And I'll just sit there and I don't say another word because I want them to fill in the gap. I don't want to prod them anymore. I just sit
Right.
there and I wait. And that's sometimes the best thing you can do is just sit there and wait for them to respond. But if you try and feed it to them, the responses are canned.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't come out as well as but to share a favorite story of your loved one is very important. Share a favorite story and then tell a favorite story. So there's a difference between writing it and telling it. And
Yeah.
so I think you'll notice this too. And I don't know if most of you know, but I am writing a book regarding this podcast. And there's a difference between writing the story, because for me, as I write the story, there's so much more detail I can fill in as opposed to just tell the story.
Right.
And so you can usually tell your audience if someone is listening to a story, if you've got their attention or not. And if you don't have their attention, why continue elongating the story?
Yeah.
So it's easier for most people to share. There's a difference between share and tell. So that's why I wanted to bring up both. And then the last thing is that you're wherever you choose to worship, whatever church you attend, if it's just in your home, if it's at a Episcopalian, a Methodist, a LDS church, have members pray with you and for you. And then that gives you that added lift and I guess added spiritual buoyancy that you would need. And then the final thing, we talked a little bit about creating a tribute online, but I don't think it's wrong to chat online about them. So there's a difference again between share and tell and create and chat. So when you're creating a tribute, it's just something that someone can go through and look at everything and, oh my gosh,
Right.
he looked like he was having so much fun. What a good guy. But when you start telling the stories, whether like what we are here, or if you start writing them down and sharing them publicly, that just becomes a huge push for families. And I think it's very important that you recognize there's so many different ways right now in life that you can actually, which technology has afforded you to share and open up about your grief.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a, oh, woe is me moment. It's not that you can't share it, because a lot of people like to share grief on their own and do it by themselves. But I'm telling you, you'll get through it much quicker if you will share. And there's just something about opening up that allows the soul to interact with another person's soul. Any questions on those at all, Holly?
Yeah, I guess just as you're suggesting those, are you suggesting this because you did mention in the beginning that there's a difference between pain and grief? So is this to kind of work through the pain and present the grief and give it a space for it to live so that you can move it on to maybe joy, acceptance?
Yeah, I think that the pain is what usually happens first, and then the grief will follow behind it. And the grief, and I may have said that backwards when we first started talking, now that I'm thinking about it, but I think the grief allows you to work through the pain.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if I said that backwards. If so, I'm mistaken. I'm sorry, producer Caden. But just know that, yeah, it's usually the pain, because you do suffer the pain, the loss of a loved one.
Right.
And the pain is then lessened through your grieving process. And the grieving process is what we just talked about. Some of the things that you can actually do and identify for yourself, allowing yourself to build back yourself to become a individual that's stronger than what you were before. Recognizing that your family's right there through the whole step process. And if you're by yourself, and there are those that are by themselves, they don't have anyone, no family whatsoever, it's important to note that it's okay to reach out to people. And that's one of the one of our previous episodes, where even people living in facilities of assisted care, When they're by themselves, they will reach out to nursing staffs, or to
Right.
nursing staff, to doctors, to people in their own room. They need to, you and I need the ability to communicate. And so that's very important. So with that being said, just real fast, I'm just going to mention some do's and don'ts. And then we'll get into the story. There's two that I want to share with you. First of all, you just need to be gentle with yourself. Don't feel like you're going to recuperate 100%. That will never happen. And so when you fall into a mode of crying fits or anger, don't get mad at yourself. Just recognize this is your human body. This is the way your body was developed to actually experience it. And so, yeah, just be gentle with yourself. Don't do more than you want. Don't be forced or pressured into doing something you don't want to do. And so that's important too, because that just adds to your stress level or your anxiety level. And the individuals that are asking you to do something, they need to understand, hey, she has a choice too, or he has a choice. If he doesn't want to do it, don't force it. Just be, again, you go back to being gentle with yourself. Do allow time for the healing or feelings. Feelings are important because I always say, when people always ask, how do you feel? I say, with my fingers. But
great. Okay.
But feelings they are so intimate. And I don't know, you can talk to somebody and all of us, or even speak to a group, and someone may just break into tears. You don't know why. Is it something you said? Is it something that they're feeling because of a loss of a loved one that they may have experienced 6 months ago, 8 months ago, a week ago, a day ago? You don't know how feelings are unless you specifically are invited to share in those feelings.
Right. Yeah.
And that is one of that's a bridge that I feel like a lot of people try and cross, and they shouldn't, because they'll say, oh, what's wrong? Can I help you? But I've always found that the best thing to do once a tear is starting to fall, take a Kleenex and hand it to them. And that's it. Sometimes put an arm around them. And if they want to share those feelings with you, they will.
They will.
But I don't think you should ever pry them out. So, and that being said, a lot of people like to bottle up feelings, and that's not good either. And I don't care if you're by yourself and you just walk outside and you start talking to yourself. What you're doing is you're expressing those feelings and allowing that as an escape from your body. Yeah, so that's a good thing too. But everyone is different, and I'm just saying not all of these do's and don'ts will be positive for every individual that happens to be there. The one thing that we are as human beings are prideful. And so we don't always want to accept help, but it's important that you do. And the reason is because you are in such a state. For instance, if someone has just passed away, what is in our religion, one of the things that we always do is take food to the individual that suffered a loss. Right. Why is that?
I think you mentioned just handing them a tissue. That acts as a bridge. I think this acts as a bridge too. Just saying, I know that you're suffering. I don't want you to have to think about making dinner tonight. You're going through something that's vastly just shakes your world sometimes. And so let me help you take care of the day-to-day.
Yep.
So that you can take care of yourself.
That's right. And that's one of the things when people are going through grief, the last thing they think about is food. That's the last thing. Why? What do you mean I have to eat? I'm fine. I'm taking care of myself.
I'm not hungry.
So, exactly. But then when food is actually prepared and brought to them, they will actually participate because they do realize they're hungry. And they're great. And whether they say it or not, they're grateful for the food that's been provided for them. I think on our part, sometimes we shouldn't ask if we can help. We should just help. Just step in. There's a void there. Just step in. Right. Just do what you feel is best. Go ahead.
And I think, honestly, that can be perpetuated through far past just the conversation of death. Like if you see someone suffering and in any way, maybe don't force yourself, but help in whatever way you can. If you're there, try and help.
Yeah.
I think that's something that society has kind of lost track of a bit.
I agree. And the last thing I'm going to say about the do's and don'ts is now the person that's actually lost a loved one. This, I think, is most important. Not most important, but very important. Do interact with your children. Because the children have felt that ripple effect as well. And if they're not interacting with you, you need to step forward and interact with them.
Yeah.
Because it's that interaction that will help both of you to heal through the grieving process. You need to pay attention to your children because they're an active part of it as well. And again, like I say, some people don't have children, but that's when they look for other avenues or other people to bounce or act as a springboard so that they can continue in their course of conversation and express what feelings of grief they are going through.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that's very important for the do's and don'ts. Some of the traditional things that you can change, and any questions on those at all, Holly?
No, I think just reiterating what I think is most important, or what you stressed most from these, is just creating a space for yourself and for your feelings, and that it's okay to have feelings that you don't think you should have around the holidays. You know, it's okay to still grieve, and it's okay to relapse into your grief if you think you're past it or beyond it, or you have healed from it.
Yeah.
The healing process is not just linear. It's messy.
It is messy.
So just
life.
I think, yeah, life is messy. So I think, yes, your comment of just be gentle with yourself, that's so important.
I think it is very important. So with that, I'm going to jump right into the first story. And this one involves a young woman who had 3 children in the household when her husband passed away unexpectedly. He had actually gone to work, and at work, they gave him he was rewiring, I don't remember if it was a business, anyways, working with electricity, and forgot to ground and was electrocuted to death.
Oh my gosh.
And so she received a notification. This was 2 weeks before Christmas. And she came in and was a little bit broken, not a little bit, a lot broken up, because her children, I think her oldest had just turned 13. So the teenage years, so 13, I think 10 and maybe 7. And there was a huge gap, usually the 2 years, but this one was not. It was bigger than the 2-year span. So she just looked at me and she said, "So what do I do now?" I thought, and I was thinking back in my mind, what do I do now? What would I be doing right now if my spouse had died at work, being electrified? Yeah. Or electrocuted. And I would think to myself, I wouldn't be here sitting talking with me. Right. You know what I mean? That's what I was thinking. Yeah. And I said, well, what you need to do first off is you need to hold true to the traditions that he would want you to be a part of this time of year. You just need to. And I said, and those traditions may change as years come by, as they come and do. And I said, but most importantly, you need to establish some new ones for your children. And not that you're going to forget your husband, because it's important to share those memories with them as they grow older, but to allow themselves a self-identity. It's no longer, we're missing someone of the family. That doesn't mean our family has stopped, but now we're going to focus more on you, being the children, and what it is we can do to focus a new tradition for our family to moving forward. Yeah. So that being said, I thought everything was fine. About the day, maybe it was 2 days before Christmas, she came back in, and the services had already been held. And I just stood up and I hugged her and I just said, I'm glad to see you. You know, one of those things. How are you holding up? And she goes, I have some things in the car I'd like to give you. And those were gifts that were meant for her husband. And I said to her, well, what would you like me to do with them? And she says, I don't know of a good organization to hand these over to, and maybe someone could use these. And so she had a list of what the actual gifts were for. And so I immediately started calling charities and saying, hey, do you have need for like a pair of pants, shoes, socks, a shirt, anything like that I could go ahead and disperse this information to. And so all of those gifts were actually dispersed to other families that were in need of those items. And so I went on ahead and I just made a note where every one of those items went and who they were for. And then I handed that back to her. And the reaction was priceless. Do you know what she did?
I don't know. I'm sure she cried.
She cried. And
Yeah.
that's exactly right. She cried because she knew now that she was able to help someone else in her own loss.
Right.
And isn't that the point of Christmas? Isn't that
Yes.
what you really truly want to do and be able to do? So that was the first story. Second story, a little more heart-wrenching, and I don't know if I'll get through it, but I will do my best to try. So late November, after Thanksgiving, we received a call, and this was in Utah. Received a call about a family that was traveling back home from their Thanksgiving excursion with other family members, and I think they went to I don't know, I don't remember where it was, but we had just experienced one of the heavier snowfalls that we had ever had in Utah. And we were all kind of sitting with pins and needles, wondering what that was going to bring. And
Yeah.
isn't that weird how you think as a funeral director? And so,
Yeah. Ugh.
I'll laugh a little
Brings
bit.
on a whole different light.
Yeah. Hooray. It's snowing. No, I'm kidding.
You guys are grateful for the water.
That's
We're
right.
grateful for the business.
There you go. See? Okay. Now you're thinking. But anyway, so we received a call that a car had gone off the road. When we got the call that the car had gone off the road, it was from a family member because they were the lead car, and there were 3 cars. So you know what I'm talking about. There's a caravan of cars all traveling to the same location, and this was after Thanksgiving. And so the lead car had just made a turn, and a car coming around the turn had lost control and hit the second car, pushing it over an embankment. And so the car actually rolled. And then the third car was the parents of the son-in-law and daughter of the car that was in the middle. And then his oldest son was driving the lead car. And so here you've got 2 cars looking behind each other, one in the rearview mirror, the other one in the windshield, through the windshield, and just witnessing that a car holding a daughter, their son-in-law, and 3 of their grandchildren being pushed over an embankment. Again, this was in November. And so we get this phone call from the elderly father. And he says, we would like to go ahead and let you know that we're going to have probably all 4 handled through your facility there, but we want to ask you a couple of questions first. And the first question out was, what's your faith? And I remember to myself, why in the world are you asking my faith?
Right.
And so I had mentioned that I was LDS and that I had a strong faith in a God. And he said, what does that God do for you? And again, this is a father that is experiencing and has experienced the loss of 5 people in his family. And I said, well, he's done everything. He said, even in good times and in bad. I said, of course, specifically in bad. Sometimes I don't acknowledge it in bad, but specifically in bad. And he goes, great. We want to use you. So here's in my estimation, he was probably and he was not LDS. And so I know everyone, when I tell the story, shakes their head like, what are you talking about? In Utah, he's not LDS.
Yeah. He's the 1%.
Yeah. And he said the one thing that he enjoyed most about our conversation after the fact was the ability to share and not be afraid to share. He said there was no hesitation in your sharing. And you don't know why I was asking the questions, but he said it was important for me to have my daughter, her husband, and our 3 grandkids to be handled by someone who had a belief in life after this. And so when you think about that, and here it happened the second week of December, and he went on ahead, and so I to kind of condense the story, he had closed up the home that they lived in, his daughter and the 5, and had taken everything that he could to a local, I guess, like a Goodwill establishment for his church or where he believed. And in the parking lot, he had everything on display. And he said, there was a sign that said, just like Christ, we're willing to give all. And so he had emptied the entire home, all of the gifts, everything, the tree, everything. And he had placed it in this parking lot and was allowing individuals to come again with an inventory sheet of what he had, because they were gifts, obviously, wrapped up under a tree, but letting you know that these are gifts that we're willing to give to you if you need them, just as Christ had become a gift for us. And those two stories, whenever I think about Christmas, and when you said you wanted to do a Christmas episode, I always think of those two stories, only because Christmas plays an important part in our lives, whether we believe it or not. Again, we've talked about this, about the attitudinal change between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And I can't help but believe that it's because of the birth of a baby that took upon himself the sins of the world, any frailties that we may have or experience, and gave us the opportunity to overcome. And I think we see in ourselves, no matter how poor, how bad we may think of ourselves, that there's always that lift of optimism and opportunity that will come our way to allow us to become better people. And that happens anytime. I wish that we would take that under consideration throughout the year and not just at Christmas time.
Right.
Because you can feel it. And even when people hear this podcast, you'll see what it is that I'm talking about, or you'll know what I'm talking about. But where does that go in February?
Right.
What happened to it in June? Why is it just the heat we're worried about in June, or can we focus a little bit on our neighbor and allow us that opportunity to still be remembrant of the blessings that come to us through the Christmas season?
Yeah. So
anyway, those are the two stories that I have, and oh my gosh, I'm so grateful to you Coffiners for listening, and I'm sorry if some of these stories become a little beleaguered, but it's important that you understand what actually takes place within the funeral industry and how we are placed in different situations that we need to actually confront and be a part of. And it doesn't just happen. And you just need to be prepared, and it doesn't happen to just us. It can happen to you. And how you react to certain situations can become trial or even burdensome. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional. So anyway, any comments on those two stories at all, Holly?
I just think that I like, I won't say that good inherently comes through tragedy, because it doesn't, but
it doesn't,
because of who we are and who we can become. And I will say, like you said, because of that little baby that was born, we can create good through it. I just think that that's great. I was, as you do, we were listening to Christmas music on a loop the other night, and a song came on. It was a rendition of Silent Night, and if you want to listen to it, it's fantastic. It's a rendition of Pentatonics and the King Singers, Silent Night. Please go look it up. It's amazing. But we listened to that probably at least 12 times in a row, and we were just sitting and listening to it. And I just remember having a thought, as the song concludes, it's just sleep in heavenly peace. And I was thinking, because of Christ and because of the Christmas season, what we celebrate, what the whole meaning of it is, we can sleep in heavenly peace if we do embrace that. And as you said, if we embrace that throughout the year, we can have that feeling with us the entire year. It doesn't just have to be the month of December. It doesn't. You just have to realize that there's so much good in this world, and we can take part in making it better for ourselves and for our children, for our loved ones, if we just remember the whole reason behind it all.
I love that sentiment about being able to sleep in heavenly peace. And I will look that up.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
So-
And yeah, just what you said, it's peace that you can't get from this earth. But it is available to you if you choose to seek
Agreed.
it. Well, I think
Yep.
that if you have any further comments.
Me? Or are you
Yeah.
talking to coffiners?
No, you.
we're freezing up a little bit here. So
Yeah, we are.
I have no additional comments.
Okay, great.
Comments. I think
Well,
I've said it enough in each of the episodes preceding this one. This time of year makes my mind real. I mean, a lot
yeah.
about memories and about individuals that I deal with on a daily basis that I can't even imagine are experiencing the tragedy of a loss. But think of the do's and don'ts. Think of the new traditions that could be established, and don't feel bad when you walk past this store front and you think, I wonder if he would like that, or I wonder if she would like that. And then, so anyway.
Right.
Are you there, Holly? You're frozen.
Yes, I'm here. Well, we'll just close there.
Okay.
Thank you,
Okay, good.
Coffiners, for joining us. Thank you, Frank.
Good. All right.
Be sure to like, share, subscribe wherever you're listening to podcasts. And most
Thank you.
importantly, Merry Christmas.